Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought it'd be fun to discuss 5-star reads. Now reading is so subjective. Everyone likes different things. That's why genres are created. There are so many books that people read that they just don't agree on whether or not there's 5 stars. And I love that about reading, because like I said, reading is subjective. I thought it'd be fun to discuss some of the 5-star reads that I thought would be 5-star reads, but actually were not, and books that I thought were gonna be 5-star reads that actually were, and blew me out of the water, met my expectations, or went above and beyond my expectations, and I want to discuss that with you today. I don't want to end on a negative note, so we're going to start with the bad books. Well, not the bad books. We're going to start with the books that I thought were going to be 5 stars, but actually fell flat and are not 5 stars for me. Some of these books, if not all of these books, are book talk favorites. So don't bully me because I am sensitive and I will cry. The first book that I want to talk about that I thought was going to be 5 stars but actually was not is Happy Place by Emily Henry. Now listen, Emily Henry is still an auto-buy for me. I love all of her books. I think her writing is beautiful. I love the characters that she creates, the storylines, everything that she does is phenomenal. The thing that I hate about this book is the miscommunication trope. Even though that is a big plot of this book, I still gave this book 4.5 stars. It is still really good. I have the hardback and I bought the paperback, and yet it's still not a 5 stars for me. I still love this book because it is great found family. The friendship in here is phenomenal. It's great for people who are struggling, trying to figure out their life, trying to figure out their path, trying to figure out their friendships in their 20s. I love that. But the miscommunication in this trope drove me bonkers, and I could not handle it. The next one is one that I really wanted to give 5 stars because I understood the message and I thought it was still beautifully done. However, I just could not connect with it, and that is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I know she's a fan favorite for so many readers, but all of her books I just can't connect to. I've tried so hard. I read Malibu Rising last summer. I did not like that book. I gave it 3 stars. I think the message behind it is again really good, but the characters I was not interested in. Also, it was the only book that I've read so far where it was dual timelines. So one chapter would be about the children of the parents, the next chapter would be the parents and their love story, and it was the only book that I just did not care to read either dual timelines, and so that's just kind of where I was at too. But same thing with 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It is also dual timelines. It is about Evelyn Hugo in her older age reflecting on all of her husbands and her life in the past. She's kind of giving a autobiography. I could not give it 5 stars. There was something that was lacking. Actually, there was multiple things that was lacking in this book that I just could not follow through with giving it 5 stars. The next book is Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. This was disappointing to say the least. I really enjoyed Every Summer After by her, and that was like her first book ever. I read Every Summer After in like one night. I was so intrigued by the storyline. It's something that I had never read before because I had just started reading again. It was a second chance romance, all of this stuff. It did have a cheating trope in it, which I did not like, but it was still a great storyline, and I gave it 5 stars for. So when I heard about this book, I was like, I'm all in. I want to read it. I read it and I almost DNF'd it. I persevered and pushed through because I just can't DNF a book. Like, I'll say it's on a pause because there's like maybe 3 books that I have currently DNF, but I will read eventually. I could not connect to the storyline. I could not connect to the characters. I didn't care about the characters at all. And again, it was miscommunication. There were secrets. It's just frustrating when the storyline could be fine, like the characters could be fine if they just communicated with one another, but I guess that there wouldn't be a book or there wouldn't be a storyline for that. It's just so frustrating when they can't communicate how they feel and it's like a deep hidden secret, and then all of a sudden right at the end of the book then they confess it and everything is fine. It's like, no, stop it. Just tell each other what you're supposed to tell each other and then everything will fine. Like, not everything has to be secret. Sorry, I don't know what came over me there. But yeah, that's Meet Me at the Lake. I had very high expectations. I think I gave this book 3 stars. Looking back at it, I probably would give it like 2.5 stars. Something that I would not recommend. I think maybe that's why I wouldn't give it 3 stars, because 3 stars I would still recommend the book. I would not recommend this book. This next book I heard great things about. I was very excited to read. There was anxiety representation, and I have pretty high anxiety, especially when it comes to social anxiety and being out in public, so I heard that there was really good representation in this book for it, and that is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. So many people are diehards for this book, and I just could not understand why. For like the first half of this book, I did not like the female main character. I thought she was rude and obnoxious, and there was a little bit of miscommunication, but the way that she jumped to conclusions with this main male character I didn't like, and so I put the book down, and I think I didn't pick it up for like 2 months. I loved the main male character. I love him. I think the anxiety representation that he goes through is, I mean, not great, but I'm glad that there is anxiety representation in some books, because some either don't do it well or there's just not enough of it. But I put it down for a long time and then finally picked it up again. And then once I hit the halfway mark, I was in it, but I was so far gone with the first half that I did not give it 5 stars. I think I ended up giving it 4 stars. That's purely based on once I hit the halfway mark and then read the rest of it. It's like a standalone, but it's technically like a second book in the series. I didn't read the first book. I heard this book was better, so I'm definitely not going to read the first book. And then Just for the Summer came out, which is also a standalone, but it's connected to this world, so I want to read it. I want to give Abby Jimenez another chance because, like I said, so many people love her books, and I heard this one is 5 stars. For a lot of people, I'm gonna get it because I'm intrigued, and I love the cover. I think it's really cute, so we'll see how that goes. This next book is from an author that I actually really enjoyed her first book, and I went on TikTok, and to this day, people are still talking about this book. I mean, it's still fairly new, so I don't want to be dramatic and say that it's been out for so long, even though it really hasn't. And I didn't hate it, but it's not 5 stars for me, and that is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I actually gave The Dead Romantics 5 stars. That might be controversial because literally no one talks about that book. Everyone talks about this one. So when I first heard about a second book, I was so excited, especially because so many people loved it and so many people were talking about it. I'm like, okay, if I gave The Dead Romantics 5 stars and no one is talking about it, of course I'm going to give this 5 stars. It was so slow for me, which I didn't mind, but again, like the characters, I didn't really feel a connection for. It felt kind of forced. Everything that was kind of like, I don't want to say like a plot twist, but I called everything that was going to happen in this book. And sometimes that can be fun, but other times it's just kind of annoying that like you can see what's coming in a book, and that's how I felt with this book. I thought the magic was really great in this book, but other than that, there was a lot of things that were lacking for me, so I didn't give this book 5 stars. I think I gave it 4.5 stars, so it's pretty close, but it's definitely not a pure 5 stars for me. Like I said, I love The Dead Romantics. I wouldn't say a lot of people would give it 5 stars. I think the reason why I gave it 5 stars was because of how it hurt me personally. Like, it was like, Hannah, this book is written for you and you alone. I felt bullied because of that, because she made me cry, she made me feel things. Ashley Poston is amazing when it comes to grief. It is so beautifully done. It's like poetry, and you feel things afterwards. And the way that she puts magic into the storyline and still talking about grief and still trying to deal with love and all of this stuff, like, her writing is still so good. So I really wanted to give this 5 stars. Usually I am fully highlighting things, and I'm looking through this book, there's like nothing highlighted really. And the last one of the pile for books that I thought were gonna be 5 stars but fell flat for me is one that Book Talk goes feral for. They are obsessed with this series, and that is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I think this is a series that I need to have the physical books for, because I read this book that I audibly gasped, I did oohs and ahs, I underlined things, I tabbed things, not nearly as much as I normally do, but I was still very intrigued with the plot and what was going on. I trusted no one. Then I was like, okay, I gotta continue with the second book, because like I said, so many plot twists, so many twists and turns. And with all of the plot twists and the deception and everything going on, I still gave it, I think, 3.5 stars, 3.75 stars, somewhere around there. So I wanted to continue reading. Well, I didn't have the physical second book, so I went on Spotify and I started listening to The Wicked King, which is the second book. I think I got maybe 10 chapters in, and I was so infuriated with every single character. I didn't like the plot. There were so many names that were being introduced to the storyline that I couldn't follow along, and I was like, okay, who's this? Who's that? Who's that? So I have currently DNF'd it. That's one of the books that I am putting a pause on, because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy the physical copy of the book. Fantasy, I think, is probably just something I can't listen to, because fantasy is such a world building genre. Like, you really don't need to build a world when it comes to romance, because the whole plot and the whole storyline is the romance aspect of it. A big plot about fantasy is the magic or the dragons or the witches or the sorcerers. That is the main point, and then there can be romance along with the fantasy. When it comes to fantasy, I've just realized now I need to have the physical book or something like my Kindle. I can't listen to it. I can't follow along. And maybe that's why I DNF'd it, is because I just could not follow along with the second book. But this book was still not 5 stars for me. Wasn't terrible, but wasn't great. Now, we're jumping into books that I thought were going to be 5 stars and were actually 5 stars, or blew me out of the water, raised my expectations higher and higher. I could not comprehend how great the book was. The first one that we're rocking with is Beach Read by Emily Henry. Like I said, I love Emily Henry. I was very disappointed in Happy Place, but I loved Beach Read. Happy Place was, I think, actually, no. People We Meet on Vacation was the first book that I read from her. It was not, it was kind of in the middle for me. I didn't hate it, I didn't love it. Beach Read is so great. I think, now that I'm thinking about it, I really do love books that deal with grief. Maybe because it helps me process my emotions, because I feel called out. Beach Read is about 2 characters who have been seen as rivals their entire lives, from college to their professionalism. They live next to each other for summer and they make a bet. When I first started this book, I think I had just finished Happy Place, so this was my 3rd book from her that I was reading. I did have high expectations because I did hear Beach Read was a lot of people's favorites from her, but I didn't really know what the plot was about. I just went in kind of blind. I'm glad I did, because there were so many things that I really enjoyed. I love the storyline. I love the characters. I think the banter that they have with one another is really good. If Emily Henry knows how to do one thing, that is banter. She is so good with her banter. I do recommend Beach Read. It is great. It is a favorite for a lot of people. It is one of my favorites. It was so good. The next is a part of a series, and the series is talked about all over TikTok. I am one of those people that talk about this series. I first started reading cowboy romances from Lila Sage, and she got me hooked. I was looking at other authors that dealt with cowboy romances, and I landed on Elsie Silver. I started with her book Flawless, and I loved it. I didn't give it 5 stars, but everyone was talking about the second book and how everyone loved Daddy Cade, and I was like, why do they call him Daddy Cade? And that is Heartless by Elsie Silver. It is amazing. The whole dynamic of this book is phenomenal. I love Willa. I love her character. Usually I'm not a fan of redheads, but I love her character. I love her free spirit. I want to be Willa, not just because she's with Cade, but also because of her personality. I want to be as free as her. Cade is hunky. He is grumpy. He is perfect. He cannot stay away from her, but tries his hardest to. It's so good. It's nanny, single dad, found family. It's so cute and so spicy and so wholesome, all into one. The next book is also a part of a series, and it is also the second book in the series, and that is The Hawthorne Legacy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I'm gonna be completely honest. I did a book video talking about the first book and how infuriated I was with the ending of the first book. And I was like, I don't even want to continue because it was so confusing. You wait the whole book to figure out why something happened, and they tried to wrap it up in a bow, and I didn't like that. But I just had to keep reading for the second book, and it explains so much more in the second book. This is one of my favorite books ever. I just love the riddles, I love the puzzles, and I love to read about it because I know if this happened to me in real life, I would be screwed. I would like to think that I could figure out puzzles. I would like to think I could figure out riddles and hidden chambers and all of this stuff, but really, I do not have the patience for that. If I was Avery, I would not do good. But I would be with Grayson, I would be with Jameson, I would be rich. So, trade-off. This next book was my first 5 stars of 2024, and that is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This book is so good. Talk about banter. Let's just talk about banter, okay? If you do not know me, I love banter. I am a sucker for a good banter. Now, the only thing that was lacking for me in this book was The world building, like I said, with fantasy, it needs to have world building. This did not for me. That was the only thing that was lacking. The dynamic with the two characters could be qualified, I'm going to emphasize could be qualified for an enemies to lovers, but technically I'm going to say no. It's not really a true enemies to lovers. She threatens him a lot, but still feels feelings for him. He's infatuated with her. I don't even want to say that there's love in this book. It is a slow
Two hours later.
Slow burn, and I could not get enough. I think this is the first book that I truly highlighted almost everything on every single page. Every single page is thoroughly underlined. I have so many tabs in this book that I just ran out of tabs, so I had to get more tabs. It's like perfectly well done. If you haven't read a fantasy book or want to start reading fantasy, this is a perfect introduction for fantasy because it's a mixture of Hunger Games meets Powers, but also like a Divergent. Also, a lot of people compare this to The Red Queen that I've never read, but I want to. But yes, this is a great book. I love Kai. He's like top 5 book boyfriends for me. He's perfect. And the way that it ends breaks me. It literally broke me when I read it. I tried to drag this book out as long as I could. I thought the second book was going to be released in June. It got pushed out to July. I ordered the novella Powerful. Hopefully that will be coming soon, but I cannot wait for Reckless because of the way this book ended. I cannot get enough. I literally cannot get enough, and I'm so tired of waiting. The next book is a book that I actually just finished a few weeks ago. I gave it actually 4.5 stars, but I cannot get it out of my head. I cannot stop thinking about this book that I had to bump it up to 5 stars because of how phenomenal this book is. It is something that I've never read in my entire life. I've been chasing that feeling, hoping that I can find another book that makes me feel that way, and that is Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. I was obsessed with One Dark Window. I loved it. After I finished One Dark Window, it leaves you off on a cliffhanger that I had to pick this up immediately, and I didn't think that I would get the same feeling from One Dark Window, but it met my expectations and then just went higher and a little bit higher. There's multiple POVs, they are on different journeys, trying to figure out things. It is a life or death situation, it is found family, it is perfect. I oohed and I awed, and I was laying in my bed reading this book and I jumped up in so many different parts because I was flabbergasted. I did a reading vlog on this and I wish that I could reread this again. Both books, I wish I could read the duology again because it is so good and I cannot not stop recommending these two books. But specifically Two Twisted Crowns, it's amazing and I want to read more books like this. It's like Lord of the Ring vibes. The last book that I want to talk about that I thought was going to be 5 stars and was actually 5 stars is part of a series, but it is one book that I have. And that is the mindf series by St. Abbey. I love this series. It is tied for one of my all-time favorite series, if not probably my favorite series so far. It is so good. It is like 200 to 300, I think, pages per book, so that's why they put it all into one book because it's technically 5 books, but the storyline is amazing. I heard so many people talk about this series and I was a little concerned because it is a dark romance and I'm not the biggest fan of dark romances, but I did a video reading dark romances for a month and I read this and my life was changed. I was crying because I didn't want to stop reading it. I am envious of people who have not read this yet and are going to because I want to get the feeling of reading it for the first time. It is hauntingly beautiful. The things that the character had to go through is super traumatic, so please read your trigger warnings. I think this could be qualified as a perfect book from beginning to end. It is a 6-star read for me, and I don't have really any 6-star reads. I really don't think any of my 5-star reads are 6-star reads for me. I don't think that I've ever had a book that I've read that is actually qualified as 6 stars. I think this might be the only one. I think Beach Read is really close, and maybe Powerless is really close, but I wouldn't say it's a perfect 6 stars. This whole series is a 6 stars from me. Those are all the books that I thought were going to be 5 stars and weren't, or I thought were going to be 5 stars and were and met my expectations and just were perfect books. Let me know your thoughts on 5-star reads that you thought were going to be 5 stars that weren't, or books that you think are really popular and you didn't like, because maybe we're in the same boat. Again, if you liked any of these books, please don't hate me. It's just my opinion and what I feel when it comes to my reading and things that I like in books, things that I don't like in books. These might be some of your favorites, and that's okay. Reading is subjective. Reading is for everyone. We don't have to like the same thing, but those are just my thoughts on the books that I've read that are 5 stars, all that stuff. If you want to follow me on any other social media platforms, I will have them linked down below, and I hope to be seeing you in the next video. Bye.